I also believe that we have a great state with a marvelous history and a marvelous tradition. For 232 years since the state was created, as Jefferson penned the immortal words in the Declaration, we have been a terrific place to live because of the great values that we've had here. My favorite president is George Washington. I grew up in the shadow of Mount Vernon in Northern Virginia, in an average middle-class son with a good middle-class family. My dad was an Air Force officer, and my mom actually worked at Mount Vernon for 17 years, and we got to know and love that first president of the United States. In his first inaugural address in 1789, and by the way, I just have to digress for a minute, one of the most touching moments in all of my life was right here in Winchester when I kicked off my campaign for governor. Bev, I think you might have been there. And I stood on the courthouse steps to announce my candidacy, and when I was finished, I turned around, and there on the wall of the courthouse is the plaque that cites that this is the same place that George Washington kicked off his campaign for the House of Burgesses, and I was almost moved to tears by thinking I was standing in the same place where my political hero stood in announcing his campaign. But anyway, in 1789, in his first inaugural address, he said something that I think he expected to be repeated through the ages to a young nation. And that was this. He said, "The propitious smiles of heaven can never be expected to remain on a nation that disregards the eternal rules of order and right that heaven itself has ordained." In other words, I think he said, values matter and character counts. And I think when Jefferson penned those great words in the Declaration, he understood that our liberties come not from government, but from an almighty creator, and that he believed that they are to be those inalienable rights of life and liberty and the pursuit of happiness are to be protected by government. And that's why governments are to be instituted. And I believe those inalienable rights are so important that they apply to all citizens, both born and unborn, and I will be a defender of innocent human life. I think in that same year, 1789, when our Bill of Rights was being crafted, that there was a very specific reason why they put that Second Amendment to the United States Constitution in place to give us the individual right to keep and bear arms. I was delighted last year to write a brief in support of the Heller versus D.C. case that now has etched in stone in the United States Supreme Court case that we have an individual right, not a collective right, to keep and bear arms. And as your governor, I will be a strong supporter of the Second Amendment to the United States. And when Jefferson penned those words about the pursuit of happiness, they understood that that incorporated the sacred right to own private property, free from excessive eminent domain powers. And so as your governor, I will be a strong supporter, as I have been as Attorney General, of that right to own private property, being free from kilo-type takings here in the Commonwealth. Well, let me conclude by saying that I have been blessed over my life to be raised by parents who taught me some of the great lessons about this country. When my dad, when I was a young kid, my dad, who was a World War II veteran, told me something that I will remember my whole life. He said, "Son, the harder you work, the luckier you get." And that stuck with me for a long time. So when I was in the Army, I went to night school for 3 years and learned about hard work, and I earned a master's degree going to night school. When I was a young lieutenant in the Army, I looked across the river at the Iron Curtain from freedom into the heart of darkness into tyranny in East Germany. And I learned a lot about the greatness of America and the price of freedom. When I was a manager with a Fortune 500 company, in a healthcare company, I learned a lot about the incredible promise of the free enterprise system, and that free people in a free enterprise system creating dreams and opportunity for other people was absolutely the best way to be able to promote the American dream. When I was a young prosecutor in Virginia Beach and saw criminals getting out of jail too early and victims' rights not being protected, I learned a lot about justice. So I decided to do something about it in 1991. I ran for office for the House of Delegates and surprised everybody, including myself, and I won. And so for 18 years, I've had the privilege of being able to work together with the citizens of Virginia and to serve you. As Attorney General, working together, we did so many things to strengthen private property rights and improve homeland security. In fact, Bev carried all those bills, I think, for me, and make this one of the best states in the country to protect young people from criminals online through internet safety, and crack down on sexual predators and gangs and drugs and illegal guns. And so I stand before you today now with those experiences and that time in office, and ask for your support to be the next governor of Virginia. For me to be able to do that, I think we have to dream big and set those big goals. We've got to work hard, we've got to act nobly, and we've got to be able to get results for the people of Virginia. I never thought when I was growing up in that average middle-class neighborhood in Northern Virginia that one day that I would be here having the opportunity to be the governor of the greatest state in the greatest country that the world has ever known. Thank you so much, and all the best to you.